This is what I have so far of the cowboy styrofoam drawing. This shows both my attempt at the pattern of a straw hat, as well as my attempt at showing deaf. The darker colors are meant to show more depth. This is a nacho platter that Dad ended up making when earlier today I suggested and on a previous day as well, I suggested a taco night. If I recall correctly, these are Santia tortilla chips. Santia being my best attempt at remembering the name of the brand. And some of these are some of the things that Dad bought during grocery shopping at a local Wegmans. That Dad and I went to following some driving practice at a high school parking lot. We went out for the driving practice at around 4 p.m. It's 9:01 p.m. now, and it being a Sunday, the parking lot was completely abandoned. There were no cars. So I could do circular laps around the parking lot. At first averaging around maybe 8 to 10 miles per hour. As he told me to do around 10 miles per hour today. And then there was a point in which he had me go counterclockwise instead of clockwise. And when I went clockwise, at one point, there was I would get to the entrance to the parking lot, at which I would brake, look both ways, and then use the directional near the steering wheel before putting my foot on the gas. The kombucha was also some of the things got at Wegmans were this kombucha, as well as some of these ingredients for the nacho platter. Others Dad already had at home, such as the cheddar cheese and the jalapenos, although everything else, I believe, was part of something we bought at Wegmans today from 4:45 p.m. to about 5 p.m. I did the straw hat pattern when I got back from the driving practice and the grocery shopping at Wegmans, but the new hair, as well as the hat belt and the ears, I did those things before Dad and I went out. And in the morning, Dad again made some coffee. I recall having a few cups from 9:30 in the morning, which is when I recall getting up for today, to about noon. I also recall falling asleep on my bed within the spare room. Not too long ago. I think maybe this nap was at most half an hour in length. And before I recall waking up naturally. These are some of the Sharpie markers I used to work on the cowboy styrofoam drawing today. Here's what my city in Elvenar currently looks like. It's about 31 hours before the Buried City event starts. I could have recalled maybe earlier it was called the Forgotten City, according to my memory. In the Congregate game sword fight, I recall starting a point where I'm at level 723 for my current disciple. That's where I'm at right now with a training level of 792. I'm currently at 5.4 hours for my next use of the secret training ability. I'm waiting to have 2 charges before I actually use it though, since I can store up to 3, which 1 recharges every 12 hours. There was a point after we got back from Wegmans in which Dad brought this label out as what for me to draw next after I finish the Cowboy Styrofoam drawing. It seems like this could be a Styrofoam drawing I could do. He then offered for me to have a sip of this beer after he said that this is his favorite beer. Apparently, he said when I asked in response to him saying that it's an 11% alcohol, in response he said that apparently it's aged in bourbon or whiskey barrels, and that's why the proof for that beer is so high. Of the sip I had, it wasn't bitter like I would expect most beers to be. That sip happened somewhere between 6 and 7 p.m. I wouldn't really describe it as being sweet, though. Maybe I would at best say that it's mildly sweet, for lack of better description for it, since it's been quite a bit since that sip. I wouldn't really consider that Founder's Backwoods beer to be my favorite like it is for my dad, since I better prefer ginger beer. In regards to today's driving practice, Dad said that I had gotten better. I'm learning how to drive from my dad at 22 years old. The thing is, though, Yeah, I was always hesitant to learn how to drive. One reason being that I was concerned about what it would do to my carbon footprint, essentially. I was kind of hoping that my first car would be an electric car, and that maybe if I waited out, I could ensure that my first car would be an electric car. And then I thought about self-driving cars, essentially making me think, what's the point effectively? I didn't really get out much during my childhood and up to now. At least not in any ways that would require me to personally drive anywhere. Yeah, I always did extracurricular activities, especially once I got to college when I made an effort to be active on campus, but there was always someone, pretty much always someone to drive me to get me to where I needed or wanted to be. And if not, I could just walk there. And although I didn't ever really do it, there was also the possibility of public transport. Primarily by bus is what I typically thought of. But during later laps, around the empty parking lot, where the only thing to really be concerned about were those sort of concrete poles with things like no parking signs. Within some of the parking slots, slots being how I describe a block of parking spots. Dad said my handling of the steering wheel has gotten better. As I've gone from crossing my arms to turn the steering wheel, from shifting it to sort of shifting it by moving my two hands like this. Essentially jumping both hands in order to move the steering wheel, to using one hand to turn the steering wheel while having the other close to the wheel for extra control, as Dad suggested I do for that second stage of this steering wheel handling. I would move both hands simultaneously, small amounts. That's what I described as jumping, in order to sharply turn the steering wheel without crossing my arms. There was also a point today in which, realizing I had done things that extended the last raw video file of the 99th Dan Hamming, I extended a video I made to serve as a sort of TV program to have playing in the background during the scene of the last raw video file. I ended up extending that video by about 4.25 seconds by adding in an additional line of dialogue after the previous last one. Initially it was, I can't tell my family about this, it would crush them, but I didn't really like the direction of that, so I changed it to, I can't tell my family about this, I don't want to burden them. Perhaps this change was done as a way to try and provide more clear reason for not telling about the job being temporarily lost. Though I'm not even sure if I'll even reach that point in the audio before the scene between the officers and the witness. I just extended the video as a sort of insurance that the audio wouldn't suddenly stop near the end of that scene, which makes up the bulk of the last raw video file. Dad also got one of my suggestions when it was found they didn't have any of the usual muffins, or maybe usual boxes of muffins. And since I recalled seeing some muffins, I suggested donuts, and Dad ended up getting 2 peanut donuts, which are essentially like circular donuts with no hole in the middle, peanut butter on the outside, and then outside of that, peanuts chopped up, he got two of those, and then later on, because those donuts were the first thing we got, and Dad got extra virgin olive oil. Most likely with the intent that I start taking that with it mixed into water in the morning. It's best that it be in the morning since I think that's usually by that point when I've gone the longest without eating, and thus most likely to follow the suggestion, according to him, that you take it on an empty stomach. For this, the magnesium water, it's recommended you take it with food. So, yeah, I didn't take it until I had eaten at least something.